Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and welcome to our favorite time of the week, because we're taking a look at the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves. Alright, first thing up this week, exclusive time, and we told you they were coming soon, and they indeed did come soon. The black-coated versions of our Hogue Deka exclusive, now with MagnaCut blade steel, are in stock. We've got both blade shapes, the clip point and the modified Wharncliffe.
Wrong.
Thomas thinks it's a reverse Tonto. You tell everyone in the comments, you tell Thomas just what you think of his description of this knife. No matter what you call it. I mean, Seth, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago in our behind the scenes exclusives video that we did, that it is a bit of an unusual blade shape, kind of defies description a little bit. It's kind of a facety.
I got a description for you.
That's enough out of you. Anyway, it is the same Deka exclusive you know and love that we've had for a good bit now with the new steel. Red Damascus handles, it's G10 with a more random patterning going on. These are the Gen 2 Hogue Dekas with the deep carry pocket clip and fewer screws than the Gen 1s holding it together. Still plenty solid. I don't want to give the impression they weakened it, but it's just a cleaner presentation than the original. Now with MagnaCut steel. Edge retention, very good. Toughness, very good. Surprisingly, with those two characteristics together, it also has great stainless qualities as well. Virtually stain-proof, in fact. So the black coating here doesn't do anything to kind of enhance the corrosion resistance of the steel. It doesn't really need it, I should say. It just looks cool. And if you don't like that, we do have, of course, the stone-washed versions of these knives in stock as well. Price on these, $175 and some change. You've got nice thin blade stock for excellent everyday slicing. 3¼ inches long, excellent everyday length for many folks out there. The clip point shape here is perhaps the more versatile blade shape with the belly here at the front, but the other blade shape is still also very useful. You have a very acute tip for more precise work there. Anything where you're dragging the tip along what you're cutting, whether it's on a surface or on a cutting board. It's not a food prep knife. Forget I said cutting board there. We'll just pretend I didn't. That's fine. Cutting carpet, perhaps. Anything on a surface, piercing through cardboard is this is more of a utility knife style. On top of that, the deep carry clip makes it easy to carry, and you've got Hogue's Able Lock, as they call it, which is, of course, their excellent rendition of the crossbar locking format, famous, of course, by Benchmade's Axis Lock. And Hogue just does a fantastic job. Fantastic out-of-the-box sharpness, too, as well. Hogue, I still maintain, has some of the best factory edges in the business. Next up, we have a sprint run Spyderco. This is the Subvert, a new version of it, coming in at $420 with carbon fiber handles and 20 CV blade steel. Over 4 inches of said steel and chunky in the spine there as well. It's a big knife. It has definite presence when you go to pull it out. There's plenty to hold on to, thanks to the thickness of those handle scales, and I'll come back to that here in just a minute. The action is very good. It's a little bit harder to do, or it's a little bit more finicky to do the reverse flick I found. I actually almost dropped this the first time I did it. It's got its own character to it, at least in terms of relationship to other Spydercos, I would say. I talked about the thickness of that handle there a second ago. Not just the handle, but all the individual layers. The thickness of the outer scale, the thickness of the titanium, which forms the locking bar there, and the steel. This knife, I think, really nails the custom folding knife vibe. A lot of times in the custom folder world, this is a style that some folks tend to go for. That overbuilt, thicker pieces, really seeing all the discrete elements of the knife being built up on a substantial foundation. This feels like that. So you get a kind of custom style feel that you don't typically find in a production knife. Things usually aren't, built this chunky, shall we say. So that is a really cool thing. And even though this is an expensive knife at $420, it's a lot cheaper than most custom folders that are going to come with this level of build going on. It's a pretty cool thing. So there you go. It is a sprint run. They aren't flying off the shelves at this point, but it is not going to be around forever, so I wouldn't wait too long if you are interested. If you want to spend a little bit less money, there is the other version of the Subvert, the standard version, of course, which comes with orange handles. And let me just check the steel here. I forget, S30V. Price on that, not too much less. It's about $403 normally, in fact. So there you go. If you're looking for more of a bargain, more of a deal, this next knife is also not a cheap knife, but I think has really good value. You folks may have seen this in our Blade Show coverage of ArtisanCutlery. This is their Blade Show special edition of the Mike Snowdy designed Xcellerator knife. Upgraded from the standard format, however. Price on it is just under 200 bucks. For that, you're getting a titanium handle with a frag texture, both sides, and the frame lock, and S90V blade steel. So heaps of edge retention right here, near, top classes, or top of the class in terms of more frequently used production knife steels out there. 3.86 inches on the blade, so it's nearly 4 inches long. It is nice and broad. That is a big chunk of S90V, especially when you factor in that this thing is coming in at just $200. And yes, I did say just $200. I think that's justified in this case. Stonewashed finish on the blade that will aid in keeping the blade looking nicer longer, because a stonewashed finish tends to hide scratches just a little bit better than other finishes out there. Milled pocket clip, single-sided, gold backspacer, gold pivot ring as well. It's not actual gold, it's colored to look gold. The action on these knives is quite good, and it gives me an opportunity before I demonstrate that to show you the folded profile of this knife, which despite the large feel when it's open, is not quite as large as you would think when it is folded up, which is pretty cool. Reverse flick works great. Other standard slower opening methods, of course, work just fine too. Watch the pressure on the lock bar though if your thumb opening that. And although the handle may look like it's too tapered, it actually fits quite nicely. It doesn't feel like you're gonna slip off the knife. The frag texture there adds a little more grip as well if you are a little worried about that. And it feels good in that standard grip, but you see this section up here above or in front of the index finger groove. You can even choke up on that a little bit for a little tighter control on the heel of that blade for the smaller, more precise things you might be doing with it. Very, very cool knife. The standard versions of this, of course, start around the $100 mark, but you're getting RPM 9 steel at that price range, which is not a bad steel by any stretch of the imagination, but it ain't no S90V, let's be honest. And you're not getting the titanium either at that price point. Very cool knife. We have a certain number in stock right now. I don't know if we're gonna be able to replenish them when they are gone. I'm not saying that to build up hype or suspense or anything like that. I genuinely don't know at this point, so you've been warned. We'll leave it at that. Next knife is from REVO. REVO Knives by BRS, of course, famous Blade Runner Systems, who are famous for their balisongs. Now they have a REVO knife that is a bally. We've had a few of these versions so far, but this I think is my favorite color I've seen yet. Two-tone on the handles, brushed stainless finish on the outside, and blackened in the milled away sections and blackened on the edges as well. Creates a really cool look, I think. Did I say these were steel? I just said brushed finish. They're aluminum handles, not steel. So if I did say that, I apologize.
We'll go to the table.
Thomas has got nothing over here.
I'm not paying attention.
Oh, great, wonderful. 4.5-inch blade, 154 cm steel, stonewashed finish, which if you're gonna use this knife as an actual knife and not just as an enjoyable pastime for flipping, good finish for your blade steel there. If you are gonna use it for flipping, it is very smooth. And no, I am not an expert bally flipper. Don't ever mistake me for one. I can do that, that's about it. And I'm always really nervous about doing it above a table full of knives. But the feel is so smooth. We've actually got ball bearings in the pivot here, which is sometimes an unusual choice, but it doesn't feel as ball bearing-y as the Kershaw Lucha does, for example, if that makes any sense to you out there. The balisong folks, I think, will know what I'm talking about in any case. Really cool, $225 for this, and we have some of the other colors also still available right now too. Speaking of fun action, fun things to play with, new versions of the Kizer Drop Bear have landed. A little bit less expensive than the standard aluminum versions now. Coming in at just 109, we've got green Micarta with a black stonewashed blade or a satin blade, and matching hardware with each of those versions. Still the same 154 cm steel as the standard, 3-inch blade with this kind of drop point profile. It's not quite a spear point. The tip is a little bit below the center line, but it's a very kind of blunt-nosed drop point, which comes in at a very important length for some folks, being just under 3 inches long, but still has a very strong tip due to the geometry they've given it here. It's kind of a small but mighty knife, a bit of a hard worker. The action is very good. It is Kizer's clutch lock, which is a crossbar lock, but I give them a little bit of pass for coming up with their own name for it. Usually I get annoyed. It's like, everyone just call it a crossbar lock, all right? But they do some things here that are notably different than other crossbar locks. And it'll be hard to see, but we've talked about it before. There are 5 holes on each side of the liner, or on each liner on each side of the knife here, where you can actually adjust the spring tension to your liking. That will, of course, change the feel of the knife. I have a drop bear. I've personally never even cracked it open to alter it because it's great. Ball bearings in the pivot on this crossbar lock. Many crossbar locks, in fact, historically, most have come with washers in the pivot. That Hogue, for example, does come with washers in the pivot. So you may be a little more susceptible to dust or grit with the ball bearings here, but the result is a very, very free floating action that is oh so good. Moving back to the rest of the handle, the feel in the hand is very good. It kind of matches up in my mind to the kind of stout feel of the shorter blade. You've got plenty to hold on to here if you need a full heavy grip, if you need to push your smaller knife into a bigger job. It feels like you've got what you need on a knife like this. Deep carry pocket clip, it is reversible as well. So just like the lock and the thumb studs here, everything on this knife is ambidextrous, which is always very cool. Next up, we have another Kizer, a new Sheepdog. They've been kind of really throwing everything at the wall with the Sheepdog series lately, and I am really enjoying what they're doing. Traditionally, it's always been a flipper with either a frame lock or a liner lock. Well, they've got button lock versions that have recently come out. They've come out with versions deleting or omitting the flipper tab, which this version also does. And you've also got crossbar locking versions here as well, with the clutch lock, it should be said. Best of all, because this is part of the Vanguard series, it's not as expensive as some of the other Kizers out there. $119 for this one. Actually, right in line with the standard drop bear with its aluminum handles. We've got aluminum here also. Vibrant purple, matches the thumb stud. 154 cm blade, just over 3 inches long. Signature cleaver shape. And this is the clutch lock. It only has 3 holes on each side of the liners, however, or on each liner, however. So not as much adjustability as the drop bear, but again, I argue, or I will posit, doesn't matter, because it feels great. You really don't need it, in my opinion anyway. As for the feel in the hand, the drop bear, not the drop bear, it's the Sheepdog series.
Different animal.
Actually an animal. Anyway. The Sheepdog series has always had a very nice feel in the hand, whether it's a flat-handled or contoured version. That's still the case here. This is a flat-handled version right here. Big, broad blade shape. It's a little bit for style, but it is going to behave like a big utility blade, big utility knife with this type of shape as well. Tip is still fairly precise though, thanks to the angled front bevel there. Action feels great. Reversible deep carry pocket clip here too. I'm glad they kept the reversibility there. Not a symmetrical pocket clip, so it'll be technically slightly different left or right, but that's fine. We got a thumb stud. We've got a blade cutout, which I don't know why you need both, but it looks cool. So there you go. That is the newest version of the Sheepdog.
I was thinking the drop bear has a street clutch lock and the Sheepdog has a racing clutch lock.
They're all kind of sequential shift, aren't they? A little bit, if you think about it, because you got up the... Anyway. Next up, similar blade shape, very different type of mechanism. The Kershaw Launch 14 automatic knife now with a Damascus blade, and this appears to be the Alabama Damascus that they so frequently use. Good, tough carbon steel at the heart of this pattern welded material. 187 just underneath that for this knife. The blade itself, 3 3/8 of an inch long. thin enough that it is still going to be a relatively useful everyday cutter. It's not a big overbuilt chunky thing. In fact, neither is the Sheepdog that we just looked at. A very, very nice blade geometry or very nice thickness to maintain slicing capability, if that's what you're after. You got it with both of these knives. Aluminum for the handle construction on the back, aluminum and carbon fiber mixed on the front side. You've actually got a split handle design there screwed together here in the middle, as you can see. The carbon fiber looks really good, I think, next to, or contrasting with the Damascus pattern there at the front. Almost forgot the word for that stuff right there. We've got a single position pocket clip there, standoff there at the back. As far as feel in the hand, it's all four of my fingers do fit, but only just. I've got the my fourth finger just on the edge there. Doesn't feel compromised though, but if you did want a little more, if you did want a little more control, you have that big finger choil at the front as well. Let's do the action, shall we? Haven't done that yet.
It launches.
It launches. It is very satisfying. All of the launch series knives tend to come with very good action, and this is no exception. Shall we talk about the next knife?
I guess.
These next two knives actually are sort of updates or refreshes of existing models, and they both dropped today, this Thursday that that this video has launched. The first is version 3, V3 of the GiantMouse Nimbus. Here it is. It's a little bit more expensive than the LMAX steel version, which is still available, I should say. That LMAX version is $185. This version is $215, and it comes with MagnaCut steel. Very, very cool stuff. Like I said, stainlessness, toughness, and edge retentiousness as well. In a the pyramid of knife steel characteristics, emphasize two, usually the third of whichever ones you've chosen tends to suffer a little bit. MagnaCut, however, breaks the rules. All three of those sides of the pyramid. I guess pyramids are four-sided, not three-sided. This is a terrible analogy. Three pillars, whatever you want to call it. Usually the third pillar suffers, but not with MagnaCut. Are we good? Can we move on?
We'll have to.
We're gonna. All right. 3-inch blade, MagnaCut steel as mentioned, crowned spine for comfort and style. Reasonably thin, not super thin, gives you a little bit more there in terms of strength at the spine, coupled with the toughness of the MagnaCut. I would say anything else on the knife is probably gonna fail before the MagnaCut would fail in this case. Just a guess there. But with the full flat grind there, it's still gonna slice fairly well too. In fact, I'd even go as far as to say even more than fairly well. It's gonna slice nicely. As for the action, we have washers in the pivot here, not ball bearings. The standard thumb action is good. Reverse flicking is a little bit trickier, but only because there's a small amount of exposed hole there at the back, especially if you've got larger fingers like myself, but it can be done, as you could see. Black Micarta handles, nice and smoothly finished. Not a polished finish, it's still a matte finish, but it doesn't feel raggy at all. It has a very smoothed out characteristic. What's this on the front? You see we have reversibility for the wire pocket clip. Very cool, even though it's a right-hand biased lock with the liner lock there. Very, very cool. So like I said, $215 for the MagnaCut version. If you want to spend a little bit less, LMAX is still a great steel, and we have some V2s in stock at the moment at least as well. Next up, launching earlier today and refreshing an old model as mentioned, the Benchmade Grizzly Creek from their Hunt series is back. A couple of tiny tweaks to this and a slightly updated price. $247.50 for this version right here. Comes with an S30V blade, 3.5 inches long, and unlike the original, it is no longer recurved. So it's a more straightforward drop point shape. That recurve may have been enough to turn some folks away from that knife, and I'll be honest, myself included, I much prefer this particular blade shape, although you can still get the original too. We have some of those in stock at the moment. Very cool blade shape. It's something about a classic drop point. I know some people may find them boring. I find them classic. I find them very endearing, and this blade looks like it's gonna work. Just keep on working, shall we say. As for the geometry, not super thin, but not super thick either. Kind of similar to the Nimbus we just talked about. Thick enough for strength, grind is high enough that it's going to slice well enough too. Maybe a little bit more on the strong side versus the slicey side in this case would make a great outdoors knife that could, double up as your folding survival knife, even though for a survival knife I usually recommend a fixed blade, but take that with a grain of salt. The other main change you see is the orange accents at the pivot collar and with the G10 backspacer. Still comes with the stabilized laminated wood handles there, still comes with the gut hook at the back, which means this might even you'd be able to pull some double duty as sort of a rescue knife, even though there's no glass breaker on it. Non-locking non-locking gut hook, I should say. But it feels really good if you needed to use this outdoors for carving and that sort of thing, rather than the hunt aspect that these are of course marketed to. You've got that with these handles, a little more girth for that sort of thing. You've got the axis lock. This one needs to break in just a little bit, but they usually do without in pretty short order. Washers in the pivot here, easier to keep grit free out in the wilds. Ambidextrous controls. No ambidextrous quality to the pocket clip. No holes on the front side. I'm a little disappointed by that. It's not going to affect me if I wind up picking one of these up, and I'm seriously considering it at the moment, but if you are a lefty, you'll have to keep that in mind. It feels great. I love the new update to that blade shape right there. Next up, we have some more MagnaCut to take a look at, to talk about, with a new version of the LT Wright Bushcrafter in MagnaCut with a 4-inch flat ground blade, coming in at about $342 for this handcrafted knife right here. Really cool stuff, really cool handles. I'm particularly fond of this combination. We have thick natural Micarta liners there, which look great next to the maple paper Richlight, which is essentially paper Micarta in terms of what it is. It's recycled paper fibers. I really love that material. It feels good in the hand, and you always get a great look to it as well. It has more of a natural feel rather than a man-made product right there. And they're offset really nicely with the copper hardware there, pins and lanyard tube. Now, being made by hand, the knives are always pretty much incredibly comfortable. No hot spots to speak of. Everything is perfectly even. That symmetrical shape is going to make it very easy in a variety of grips because it's very neutral. It's going to drill quite nicely for your bushcrafty type stuff. Other wood carving grips and that sort of thing are going to feel great. You do have one concession to indexing the knife, and that is the single finger groove right here that helps you know exactly which way the edge is facing without even looking at the blade. It's a relatively simple design, but it's elegant in its simplicity. Credit to Tim Stetzer there, famous knife writer, has been around the block for many, many years, writing for many magazines, and he did a great job with this design in collaboration with LT. Really great stuff. Sharpened spine, crisp spine, I should say, as well. So you can do your fire steel striking right there. And of course, a JRE Industries leather sheath made by the famous Sven Stelzer, good friend of mine as well. It is typical bushcraft style with these knives from LT. You have the dangler here, which will keep it down lower than a long winter coat or a hip belt from a hiking pack. But you can also tuck that out of the way and thread through here if you like, or you could even remove that if you want to. And of course, a fire steel loop for carrying one of those. Next up, we have a little guy. It's just a little guy. The mini Elementum fixed blade from CIVIVI right there. Check it out. There's kind of a cool kind of contrast between these two. Anyway, similar vibes, just very smaller. $51.50 for this particular knife. Van Halen fans, take note. 2¼ inch Nitro V blade, hollow ground drop point with a swedge at the tip to take away a little bit of drag there. This is not a big, heavy using knife. This is a small, precise little box opener utility blade. You're not doing big jobs with this. You're just opening up packages, opening up mail, that sort of thing. Cutting string. The handles are pretty cool though. It is linen micarta, it looks like. Yes, linen micarta, brown. 4 pieces there. Gives you a little bit of extra grip between the two, and it just looks pretty cool. It's a little neat. It's a little neat little guy. Comes with a Kydex sheath right there for neck carry, no belt attachment that I'm aware of, and tiny holes too, so you're not really gonna belt that any other way. You can rig something up if you want, but I don't know of any off-the-shelf stuff that's gonna work without any, without trying, so to speak. But there you go, the mini Elementum fixed blade. Smiley, smiley. If you want a little bit more, but but not so much as the Bushcrafter. We have new versions of the MKM Makro. We've got cool new colorways here. A black coated blade, but it's kind of this almost an ashy charcoal style of blade as opposed to like a deep black. It's a very rugged feel, and that is matched by the green canvas micarta on these two. You can get both blade shapes, the drop point and the reverse tanto. What do we call it on the website? Do we call it a reverse tanto?
We're about to.
Aha, we call it a sheep's foot on the website.
I'm gonna have to write an email.
Sorry to disappoint you, Thomas. $191.95 for these knives, or as I usually say, it's about $192, because we're all adults here. We know what that means, right? Good feel in the hand, 3.5 fingers for me, 3 3/4 of a finger, I'll say, but I do have slightly larger than average hands. Your mileage, of course, may vary. Stout on the thickness of the spine, a little bit chunkier for the ability to really wrench on these knives if you need to. M390 blade steel for edge retention, and of course that thickness is going to be handy there with that steel since it's not the toughest steel in the world. It'll be mitigated by that thickness right there. And MKM's pocket sheath system, which I am a huge fan of. Slip the sheath into your pocket, let the flap rest on the outside, and the magnets will hold it in place until you're ready to draw the knife. And it's ambidextrous too, works completely the same no matter which side or which pocket you choose to carry this in. Very, very cool. Two more knives. Now we have the Spartan POROS, one of their new imports. I believe this is from Taiwan, and it is coming in at about $153 right now. We've got a nearly 4-inch long blade, 154 cm, OD green G10 handles, a liner lock, an almost deep carry pocket clip, which is reversible, and a very distinct profile. This is one of those that I feel like, anyway, is designed to a purpose, designed first and foremost to work as an aggressive folding knife for potential tactical uses, and the looks maybe came a little bit secondary. It's not it has a whiff of unconventionality to it, but everything feels right. All the grips in the hand, choking up, it all makes so much sense when you grip the knife. So if that's a turnoff for you, don't let it be, because it feels great. And if it wasn't a turnoff for you, apologize. I apologize for bringing it up here right now. It's a pretty cool knife. It's built well. That blade has a very aggressive tip. Again, kind of a theme with some of the knives we've talked about today, a good a good balancing between strength of the blade because of the thickness here, while maintaining enough slicing capability to still be enjoyable and useful to actually cut stuff with. Good blend right there. I do like the folded over liner here at the front. Makes it a bit easier to disengage most of the time, but not inadvertently. Don't take it that way. Just works really nicely. And I realize the funniness of me saying it's easier to disengage when I just slipped off of the lock. User error. Don't fault the knife in this case. Anyway, built really well, really distinctive design. There you go. Another cool Spartan blade. And last. Well,
they're the last in judgment.
Last but not least, we have another tactical knife, the Condor Fighter, simply called the Fighter. This is a 1075 clip point blade. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the Becker, the BK18, the harpoon, but not a harpoon point on this case. And thinner blade steel here. We're about, I'd say that's about 3/32 of an inch. Maybe even just, all right. Let's get the calipers. My micrometers are failing me right now. Let's see. Okay, yeah, it's just under 1/8 of an inch with the coating, so it might have started more at the 3/32 range. Although this is down South America way, I don't think they work in inches usually. They usually work in millimeters, so that would be more like, it's like 2.9 with the coatings. Maybe it started off as a 2.5 mil piece of steel.
I wasn't there.
So we get on with it.
Yeah.
All right, sorry for my digression there. I had to know. But it is a nice thin blade for utility's sake. 1075 is decently tough for this type of usage, so even though it is thinner, it should be able to still withstand some slightly heavier use, maybe not a big bomb-proof sort of thing, So keep that in mind if you're thinking about this knife. The handle is fantastic. Oh my gosh, this feels so good. Check out that contour right there. That's one of the advantages of an injection molded handle material. You can get a more complicated shape rather than just a flat-sided thing like most bolt-on scales can be in some cases. You can get that complexity, that comfort, while still keeping the price reasonable. This is an $85 knife right here. It is full-length tang underneath that overmolded handle. You've got a protruding tang here at the back. If you wanted to use this as an outdoor knife, as a bushcrafty knife, and you wanted a crisp spine or crisp spot to strike a fire steel, you're not going to find that here because of the coating, but it should be fairly easily modded, I would say. Balance is good. Man, it's not too heavy. This would be a good outdoors knife, quite honestly. The whole weight is about coming in less than 9 ounces, so it's not an ultralight knife, but it's not one that's gonna weigh you down, I don't think. Comes with a Kydex sheath, or no, is that Kydex or is that injection molded? I think that's injection molded. High impact polypropylene, so yeah, that's an injection molded sheath. But man, the tension is quite good. Comes with a leather belt strap or belt loop for drop carry. And with the holes and slots here, you could mount pretty much any aftermarket solution if you wanted a different carry method. Tech locks, ulti-clips, you name it. They're all gonna fit that pretty darn easily. Check it out, $85, the Condor Fighter. All right, that is all I have to show you this week. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for treating Seth real well last week while I was on vacation when he hosted this Thursday episode for me. Let me know what you thought of the knives down in the comments. If you want to get your hands on any of them, check out the links, of course, in the description. Those will take you to KnifeCenter.com. And don't forget about our Knife Rewards program, because you can earn up to 5% back on your purchases to spend on a future knife thanks to that program. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, and that's Thomas behind the camera. We're signing off. See you next time.